Hey there guys, so with Black Friday and Cyber Monday over, it's time to sit down and really assess what the mini PC market is like, because if you've been paying attention, late November was really brutal for the PC market in general. RAM prices and SSD prices are on the rise and things are not looking good. We're to the point where Micron, one of the only DRAM manufacturers in the world, has decided to abandon the consumer market to only focus on OEMs. This is not a great sign, and we really are going into a absolute winter when it comes to great prices for mini PCs. Ironically, if you bought a mini PC 2 or even 3 months before November, you got an incredible deal. Black Friday itself and Cyber Monday both had some of the worst deals that I've ever seen for mini PCs. I was planning on doing some videos on just shopping on those days, and honestly, I gave up. I absolutely gave up, because what am I supposed to do? Just sit there and tell you guys to buy things with some level of excitement when I know that all I'm looking at were dog shit ass deals. I couldn't do it. I could not sit there and tell you guys with a straight face, hey, this is a great deal, because it's not. It's just not. Y'all know what was a great deal? The Firebat A6, when it was going for $250 and it had a $50 coupon to go along with it that brought it down to $200. All of you guys that bought these things anywhere from September up until early November, you guys got incredible deals. Seriously, all of you guys that are sitting with a Firebat A6, you should be so happy. The guys that got the A8, you should be ecstatic. And the guys that got the F1, you gotta be just so absolutely happy with yourself, because you managed to jump on some great deals before the market turned into a nightmare. Now, I know some of you guys that bought this system were waiting until Black Friday to buy the RAM to upgrade this to 32 gigabytes of RAM, and if you're one of those people, I am so sorry that things turned out the way that they did, because the ones that got a great deal were the ones that sat there and bought the RAM along with the system itself, because now there's a lot of people out there that could resell their RAM and get back more than what they put into the entire system itself. Of course, now the A6 is $345, and if we hop on over to Firebat's store, you can see, oh, look at that, the prices of everything is stupid. I don't know why they have the A6 listed again at I guess if you just want to donate some money to Firebat, you're like, hey guys, times are tough out there, here's just an extra $100. If you're that guy, I guess you could do that. But if we take a look also at the price that they currently have the F1, $426, this is crazy. And look, the prices are inflated right now just because there is no sales happening right now. You know, Black Friday and Cyber Monday, they're over. This is essentially quote unquote regular price. There's going to be some sales starting soon. They're not going to be as good as Cyber Monday and Black Friday, but they're still going to be pretty good deals. I'm going to tell you now, you are never going to see these systems at the price points that they were at before. It just does not make economic sense currently. Already when this was selling for $250, it really didn't make any sense how Firebat was able to do that. At $351, this is pretty much at the price point that the rest of the market is selling this type of hardware at, and the fact that it's just single channel memory makes it a tough recommend. It's why I've stopped talking about the A6 and pushing it towards you guys, because really, this is not a good deal. This is what I'm after, guys. I'm after good deals. I don't care about just promoting products to you guys, because that's meaningless. I like being excited about the price points that things are at, because I want you guys to get good deals. That's what I enjoy the most, really. If I don't see good deals, then I just don't see a reason to sit down and talk about them. So with that said, I do want to talk about the only systems that I think are good deals right now. The Gatorly mini PC here with the Ryzen 5 7430U at $260 is really what I consider to be the best entry-level mini PC on the market today. Look, if we sort the mini PC market on Amazon by bestsellers, the Mac Mini at the top, it just makes sense, guys. At $500, this is just looking like a better and better deal each time. But it only makes sense if you want to be a part of the Apple ecosystem. If you don't, then it's just not even an option here. But I do think that at $500, this is a great deal. But then we look at everything else. We got the Camrui Essence E2, which is just an upgraded GK3 Plus using pretty much the exact same chassis. That has an N95, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and a 512 gigabyte SSD for $200. Get a 10% off coupon with that, but that's what, $180? At this price point, brother, it does not make any sense at all to buy this. Like, you would need just to spend as little as possible for a bare bones system, really, because this is what this is. You know, it comes with a 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabyte SSD, so it's not bare bones bones in the standard sense of a mini PC, but it is bare bones because the 4-core 4-thread CPU in here barely functions with Windows. And when I say barely, I mean barely. Yeah, you could sit there and watch YouTube on here, but try to do anything else on that computer and watch how YouTube starts to die. I don't know about you, but I don't think I could ever recommend somebody to buy a system for $180 that can't even sit there and watch YouTube comfortably while trying to do anything else on the system. If you're just trying to scroll Reddit while listening to a podcast, it falls apart. And that's $180. You spend $260 on this system right here, you will never, ever run into that problem because you go from a 4-core 4-thread CPU to a 6-core 12-thread, 16 gigabytes of RAM. This is single channel memory. Immediately off the pictures here, I'm just assuming it's single channel memory. I don't know. I mean, this thing is like, it's advertising with some AI image here of Call of Duty that's not actually Call of Duty. It's Massey Culty, yet somehow they do have Fortnite on here. None of this makes any sense to me, but I can almost guarantee you, yeah, this is just a single 16 gigabyte stick of memory. I don't care. I will take that single stick on this system over any piece of shit. And yes, they are pieces of shit at this price point, but I'll take it over any piece of shit that comes with this hardware because this is just a single stick of 16 gigabyte of RAM anyway. But you can't upgrade that later. You can't throw in another stick. You can't sell a kidney and get another stick of 16 gigabytes to throw in here. That's just not an option. But you know, if your grandma died and the inheritance check comes in, suddenly throwing in another 16 gigabytes of RAM in here is a viable option because you at least have the slot for it. But these kinds of systems, it don't matter if grandma croaks or not. You're not upgrading this. And yet people are just lining up to buy these things. And look, I got to talk about another thing. The absolute state of the market. B-Link coming out with the Sur 3 after so many years of giving us the Sur 5 over and over and over again with just a different internals. The market has regressed so much that now we have the Sur 3 with a Ryzen 3 3200U, 16 gigabytes of RAM and a 500 gigabyte SSD for $210, man. You gotta understand, this APU is so old. It's from January 2019. The world was fundamentally different at this time, man. Like, this thing is a relic. It really is. And it's a 2-core 4-thread processor. You know what this is? This is an Athlon 200 GE. It's been so long, some of you guys don't even know what the hell an Athlon is, all right? But this is about as low end as you could get at the time. You want to understand how different the world was at this time? This launched September 2018, all right? This is what that other chip is. And this had an MSRP of $55. Guys, what the hell PC part are you getting for $55 brand new today? Absolutely nothing. This is what I mean by this was a fundamentally different era, all right? And look, specs wise, this thing isn't incredible by any means. You know, it's a dual core processor. It has SMT, so you do get the 4 threads. So I guess it matches the N100 when it comes to that, but it has Vega 3 graphics. All right, so this thing is severely underpowered. And by the way, just so you understand what I mean by these being exactly the same, again, you know, dual cores, 4 threads, Vega 3 graphics, all based off of the same architecture. They're the same thing. They are the exact same thing. So yeah, this one launched in January 2019, but this one came out in September 2018. So the hardware itself is just extremely old. Like, you know, B-Link is giving you the privilege of giving them $210 for what belongs in a museum. How nice of them. Just selling antiques like that. And look, I don't want to sit here and rag on old processors, right? Because I really truly believe that there's a lot of old hardware out there that still has a place in the market. But at $210, this does not have a place in the market. And look, part of the reason that I hate the 3000 series of APUs is that every single system that I have tried that has come out within the last year or two that has these chips has run into the exact same problem. And that is that this was an era where AMD didn't really have their drivers as unified, where if you were to buy a brand new system today, you could download the drivers straight from AMD's website and it'll work. You cannot do this with pretty much any of the systems that I've taken a look at that have APUs from this era. You go to AMD's website and try to download anything and it'll tell you, hey, you don't have AMD hardware in there. And it's because it needs to have drivers that are directly from the OEM that made the system. And a lot of these brands, especially ones that are less known like B-Link and stuff like that, do not provide their drivers very easily. And a lot of the times it ends up being drivers that are really, really old. Now, is there any optimization being done for Vega today? Of course not. That's just not happening. But there's a lot of games out there that will start to nag you constantly if you're on older drivers, and there's nothing you can do to alleviate that problem with a lot of the systems that have these chips outside of switching over to Linux. So this right here, you don't buy this. Just don't buy that. The 50 people that bought this, I hope it was just a morbid curiosity more than actually thinking that this was a good deal, because this is just stupid. I would not buy this at all. I would really rather get a system with the N95 or N100 at this price point than to buy this. But realistically speaking, I would rather just take $200 and throw it out the window than buy either one of those systems, because at least then I'm saving my sanity with trying to do anything with these systems. Really, unfortunately, the sub $300 price point is just not looking great. One of the better systems on the market, and one that gets my recommendation also, is the Sur 5 Max that has the Ryzen 7 6800U, 24 gigabytes of LPDDR5 memory, and a 500 gigabyte SSD. At $320, these are some pretty nice specs. I like this. The Ryzen 7 6800U is decently powerful, especially at the price point that it's at. It's pretty much comparable CPU performance to everything else that you'll find at this price point, because at this price you will find a lot of systems that are rocking the Ryzen 7 5825U. That's going to perform pretty much identically to this on the CPU side of things. iGPU wise, this thing is going to be about twice the performance of any system that has that 5825U. This comes with 24 gigabytes of DDR5 memory, and it is LPDDR5 memory, so it is soldered on. You can't upgrade this later down the line, but 24 gigabytes is really rock solid. I really wish they would not represent the memory that in the way that they do here, because this is not SODIMM memory. You cannot replace the memory that is in here. You get it with 24 gigabytes of RAM. That is all it will ever be able to have, because it is built into the system itself. That's perfectly fine, and if anything, it's actually going to have slightly faster clock speeds, which means that in theory it should boost your iGPU. It should boost your iGPU performance slightly, though it just shouldn't be all that dramatic. But again, at $320, this is a really, really nice system. I really like this, especially because you get this and you will not have to worry about the RAM situation at all. 16 gigabytes can be limiting sometimes because of the fact that integrated graphics do need to essentially share the system memory as video memory, so that will eat into just 16 gigabytes. But with 24 gigabytes, that means that you'll have plenty of headroom for the iGPU as well as the system to have RAM. This is really nice. If you're thinking about buying the Boss Game P4, honestly, just leave a comment down below letting me know what it was like to grow up riding the short bus, because $300 for a Ryzen 7 5700U, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and a 512 gigabyte SSD, yeah, you just hate yourself at that point. You know, if you're one of these 200 people that bought this, because I've seen the price points that this was selling at. This was not ever selling at a good enough price for 200 plus people to buy this. And look, I get it. Like, a lot of these companies will bundle together a bunch of different systems, but none of these have been a great deal. For one, this Ryzen 3 5300U system, 16 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte SSD, $400, that's stupid. Coupon that brings the price down to $260, that's still stupid, because this exists. The Ryzen 5 7430U is just a 5600U. That is a Zen 3 6-core 12-thread processor. It has the Vega 7 graphics, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and a 512 gigabyte SSD. And the IO itself is pretty rock solid for what it is. This is a 4-core 8-thread Zen 2 processor, 16 gigabytes of RAM. If it's dual channel, I would be surprised. I'm just going to assume that it's 16 gigabytes, so single channel memory here. But even if it's dual channel, pairing that with the 1 terabyte SSD at $260, it just doesn't make any sense. Why would you pay that much for this? Of course, again, we look at the 5700U version, $300, that's short bus territory. $360 for the 5825U, 32 gigabytes of RAM and a 1 terabyte SSD, again, short bus territory. This with the Ryzen 9 7940HS, 32 gigabytes of RAM and 1 terabyte SSD at $530. Brother, that just doesn't really make any sense. Again, being a Ryzen 9, it's just going to be overpriced, right? Immediately, you know you're getting into overpriced territory. I mean, again, this system right here, the Ryzen 7 7840HS is going to perform exactly the same as that Ryzen 9. Exactly the same. It has 32 gigabytes of RAM, a 1 terabyte SSD, and this thing comes with an Oculink port. Oh my god, I just realized it is for each individual thing. Holy crap. So 300 plus people bought the P4 Lite and 200 plus bought the P4 P4. Bro, there are just some actual lobotomites walking among us. That's insane that people are paying those prices. Brother, the Sur 5 Max is there. Why would you pay so much more for essentially worse system? I mean, look, I can kind of get the P4 Lite if someone is just unaware, right? Because you get at least the 8-core processor there, the 32 gigabytes of RAM, and the 1 terabyte SSD, right? This at least is going to give you similar CPU performance to this. So I can understand. I can understand if somebody's like, oh, okay, well, I want the 32 gigabytes of RAM. I'm just going to go with that instead. If the CPU matters to you that much, you don't care about the iGPU. But if you care about the iGPU in the slightest, there's just no reason to go with the P4 Lite. But I mean, the real actual idiots out there are the ones that bought the P4. Like, I don't want to get demonetized because what I want to call people that bought these. $300 for a system with a 5700U, and it doesn't even come with 32 gigabytes of RAM, right? Because some people fall for that bait, right? Where they put 32 gigabytes of RAM, you see the price and it's like, oh my God, $300 for that. I gotta hop on that. But not even 32 gigabytes of RAM, not even a 1 terabyte SSD, and people are buying this. I mean, like, I can't fathom how someone would make that decision. But look, if you look at the best selling mini PCs on Amazon, it's crazy. Like, okay, look, the Geekom A6, Ryzen 7 6800H, 32 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte SSD. At $550, the specs are not great, right? But Geekom is one of those brands that I do think that if you care about build quality and you care about customer support, from everything that I've heard, and I cannot attest to an actual experience because luckily I've never had to OEM any mini PC that I've ever had, but I can understand paying a premium for a Geekom system because from everything that I've heard, they have good customer support. They have good build quality. I can attest to the build quality. I've taken a look at 2 Geekom systems before, one that was on the budget end and one that is more middle of the road. Both of them have been really rock solid. I really like them. So I can understand someone paying a premium. Like, I will not fault people for paying the $550 because yeah, it's overpriced, but in all honesty, you're getting a really rock solid system. But I mean, this at $200, this at $190, this at $250, brother, just why? And again, we go down a Ryzen 7 7845 HS, 32 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte SSD, $640. It's a Geekom system. If you want to pay that premium, you can. I will say Geekom does make some systems that you can tell from the moment that you're using them that this is a company that understands how people actually use computers. There is a lot of attention to detail to their systems in terms of the day-to-day usability of them that I think does not get enough credit. But again, you are paying a premium for that. But dropping $800 for an Ace Magic system here? Like, what are we talking about here, dude? What are we talking about? Like, how have 500 plus people bought this i9-11900H system, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and a 1 terabyte SSD for $800? I don't give a fuck about any 35% off coupon. This is a stupid system to buy. Like, this is an 11th gen part, guys. We're talking about 8 cores, 16 threads. All right. This thing is getting smoked by any modern system. All right. Hell, you know what? Screw it. Buy this system right here, because this thing is going to absolutely mollywop this thing right here for a cheaper price. That this is already overpriced, guys. Like, understand, you're not getting a good deal here, right? You're getting a good system. You're not getting a good deal. With this, you're not getting a good deal and you're not getting a good system. But I mean, like, guys, you got to understand the average consumer on here is just buying absolute dog shit. Do not be that person. Do not be one of the 300 plus people that bought this K11 with the Ryzen 9, because this is insane. $667 for a Ryzen 9 32 gigabytes of RAM and a 1 terabyte SSD, and it's the Ryzen 9 8945 HS. Look, if we jump on over to Notebook Check just to compare the chips, you'll see that they are pretty much identical. If we look at the performance numbers, they're pretty much within single digit percentage differences of each other. But this is $667 and this is $460. So do you like just spending an extra $200 for no reason? Does a logo and some RGB lights really matter to you that much? Because that's what this is. Because that's what this is right here. You are buying the GMK Tech name game and some RGB lights, because you can't even say, oh, I'm paying for the Oculink here because the other one has Oculink. You are literally just overpaying for that Ryzen 9. So congratulations to all 300 of you that bought in on this thing. I hope you're enjoying it at least, because I mean, my God, the prices that people are paying for this stuff is just so stupid. But I mean, that's just currently the state of the market, guys. Everything is so ridiculous. Look, I'm going to link down below some of the systems that are currently available that I think are actually decent price. I'm going to say this now, guys. With the current state of the market, buying a system as soon as possible is the better way to go, because prices for RAM and SSDs are only expected to go up. Now, as I'm saying that, I want you to understand, do not buy a system at all if you have any level of hesitation, whether it's you don't have enough money, you might have to go into debt to get it. Please, for the love of God, avoid all of that right now. The entire economy is just very shaky. I don't want any of you guys going into debt just to get a computer. At the end of the day, it's just a computer. Please do not put yourself into financial risk just to get a computer. And I really want to preface that because I don't want you guys to feel like you're getting FOMO'd into buying a computer, right? I don't want to sit here and fearmonger you guys into making purchases that you otherwise would not have done. But look, it does not take a lot to read the tea leaves, guys. Prices for a lot of this stuff are gonna go up, and it's not just fearmongering. Micron actually announced that they're leaving the consumer market. And look, crucial memory is used everywhere. So this is going to have real effects on the market. So expect prices to go up. There is more information coming out that a lot of companies out there are not getting DRAM delivered to them from Samsung and SK Hynix. So the market is going to be going up, guys. Right now, if you're in the market for something, I would just buy as soon as possible. Don't wait any longer. Trust me, you already missed out on the best sales of the year. They're only going to get worse from here. So I get it. You missed out on that $200 price for the A6. Don't even think about that right now. Just get whatever is the best suited for you in the market today. Because yes, it's not the price point that you would want it to be at, but I guarantee you 6 months from now, you're really not going to like the prices that things are at. So like I said, I'm going to link down below some of the ones that I recommend. Guys, really make some decisions here. You know, if you were holding out on buying a mini PC until later down the line, maybe expedite that decision. You know, if you have the funds to do it, now is the time to do it. If you don't have the funds and you're not going to have them for a while, understand that you're probably going to be in a very long waiting game here, because now it's on the AI bubble to pop. That's really just where we're at. We just got to wait for that AI bubble to pop. And outside of that, I mean, prices for things are just expected to stay ridiculous. They're gonna stay ridiculous, and they're realistically only gonna get worse. I mean, companies are just releasing new systems that are using old hardware because it's the only thing that realistically they can get that will reach the price points that they want here. So understand, we're going into a very rough market. So as always, make some smart decisions out there, guys. Please do not get screwed over. Do not be a lobotomite that is overpaying for these types of systems here. Get yourself a good deal, and you know, stay safe out there, guys. It's the holiday season. It can sometimes make some people out there very desperate to get their hands on some cash. So, you know, as always, stay safe, enjoy the holidays. I'm of course going to be doing videos throughout all of this month. I'm going to be testing out all kinds of older chips, since it really seems like a lot of these chips are going to have some long-term relevancy because of the current state of things. So we got to see where they actually stack up in late 2025 going into 2026. But I'll catch you guys in the next one.